It's Judy from Patterns for Pirates, and we're going to talk about how to pick your size for the Janet jeans. It might be a little more intimidating to pick your size because this fabric doesn't have a lot of stretch, so there's not a lot of forgiveness in picking your size. I do highly suggest grabbing some fabric that you maybe don't love, that you got on clearance, something like that, that is a stretch woven, that has the same amount of stretch as the fabric that you're planning to use. First, we're going to go over measurements, how to take those measurements, and where you will grade your sizing if your measurements hit in a different size range. So a lot of us don't hit in the same size in all of our measurements, me included. So I will go over where you need to measure for each measurement and what that means on your pattern pieces, okay? The measurements that are important to take are the ones that I include in the tutorial. So I include natural waist, full hip, and thigh. I also include a preferred waist, I think, or a high hip. Personally, I don't use that very much, but I included it just in case your body shape means that that is important to you. So sometimes you have a bigger preferred waist or smaller, and you know that, and that's a fit problem that you often have. So I included it just in case. Most people will need waist, hip, and thigh, like me. So let's go over natural waist first. This is not your preferred waist. So preferred waist is generally what you think of as where mid-rise pants hit. This is a high-rise, hits at natural waist pant. So the waistband will cover your belly button. That's how high they will come. So that's where we want to measure, is up at that natural waist. I'm going to stand up and show you where my waist is right here. So if you can see my rib cage right here, and that's where I bend just below my rib cage. Here's my ribs, and here's where I bend, and it's in between my rib cage and my belly button. This is where the natural waist is. So again, here's my ribs. I don't want to measure on my ribs, right above my belly button. And here's my natural waist. Okay. Preferred waist would be down here. High hip is a tiny bit lower where you feel those bones. And then we're going to do full hip. Move my chair out of the way so I can scoot back here. Full hip is generally your largest spot, okay? It's also on patterns just above the crotch area. So this would be my high hip. And when you're taking your own measurements, I highly suggest looking in a mirror. I do every time. I have a mirror in my sewing office, and I look at it every time to make sure my band is nice and horizontally level. I'm getting it where I think that widest spot is, and I can tell I'm not tugging too tight, right? I highly recommend looking in the mirror, okay? So here's my high hip. My natural waist hits a size small. My full hip hits a large right now. So we'll be doing some grading. Thigh. I do the upper thigh on my measurement chart. So you're gonna get right up in there, the highest point in your thigh. If the highest point in your thigh is not the largest spot on your thigh, some figures have larger thighs a little bit lower. I recommend measuring the largest point in your thigh, okay? So there's mine. Also hits a size large on the measurement chart. Now we're going to talk about some vertical and length measurements. I'm super tall, if you know, 5'10", so I'm always adding length to my patterns. Inseam is an important one. That goes from your crotch all the way down to where you want them to hit. The inseam for the shorts is about 3 inches. The inseam for the ankle is 28. That's meant to hit, just above ankle. And then I also do a floor marking on there where the floor will be. And then I have a pant length, which is meant to be worn with heels. So if you don't want to wear heels, you can use that floor marking and do whatever hem allowance you want from that floor marking. If you want a really deep hem, I think these look really cute with a deep hem. You can add a few inches and do a really deep hem. If you just want an inch hem, you can just add an inch to that floor and it will skim the floor. If you want to wear heels, you can do the longer pant length like mine. So again, inseam is just from the inside down your leg, just like this. Okay. Next is waist to hip. This is a difficult one. If you know where your waist is, so again, in between your ribs and your belly button, and then to the point where you're widest at. Sometimes this is easier sitting down. So if you sit, your full hip is at the seat. So if you go ahead and mark where your waist is, again, below ribs, above belly button, and then sit just like this, you should be able to find right where it hits. So mine is 9. I need to add an inch from the crotch to the natural waist, which is exactly what I add. It's a tricky one to take. If you mark your natural waist and you mark your hip, you can do it standing as well. It's just kind of tricky to visualize and see, okay? Another way you can do this is just thinking about your total length. Okay, I'm 5'10", so I have 5 inches extra from the top of my head to the floor. Okay, so you can think about my inseam. How much do I add there? How much do I add here, here, here? Make sure your total number is making sense, right? You don't want to be adding 2 inches to your rise if you're not 2 inches taller than what it's drafted for, unless you have an inseam that's 2 inches shorter. Okay, you have to make the total number make sense, okay, because that is a tricky measurement to take, especially by yourself. Another one is your trunk length. So trunk length starts at the natural waist, goes through the legs to your natural waist in the back, okay? I'm wearing a tight fit pant here. I have the loggers on. You either want to wear a tight fit pant, but not one that has compression, or what I highly suggest is your underwear. That's what you're going to wear underneath your pants anyways. You're just measuring yourself, wear underwear. That gives you the best measurements because that's exactly the size you're going to be under your clothes. Trunk length. Trunk length is another thing that you can take and you can see exactly how much rise you want in the front and the back. You can use that to help round out those numbers to a nice, beautiful picture that makes sense if you're having trouble with your waist to hip length measurement, because it is tricky to take, and your trunk measurement. All of those are a little tricky. You can measure all of them and then try to make them into a beautiful picture of where you need length.
Can you spell how down? Hi. You're welcome.
All right, now that we have all of our measurements, what we're going to do is going to pick our size. I give you 2 charts to pick your size from. One is the size chart. This is what I recommend. If your measurements hit within these sizes, that's what I think will fit best with the fabric and seam allowances that I've provided. I also give you the finished measurement chart. So if you're unsure of which size to do, you can use that finished measurement chart to really pinpoint exactly the fit that you want personally. If you notice, the size chart is drafted towards the middle of each size range. So if you are on the upper end, it might be a little snug. If you are on the lower end, it might be a little loose. So you can use that finished measurement chart to really pinpoint exactly where you want. I know a lot of sewists will go up a size if they're on the upper end, or they will go down a size if they're on a lower end. It's perfectly fine. Just use that finished measurement, and it's really easy to do. So what you're going to do is either measure a made garment that you love with the same kind of fabric, or you're just going to take your fabric that you have, mark the full hip width, and hold it around your full hip. How does it feel? Does it feel too snug? Does it feel loose? Same with the waist. The waist is a double layer, and it has interfacing. Okay, so the interfacing will make it feel a little bit tighter. But double over your fabric, put it around your waist, and see if it feels comfortable for you. It's a really easy way to check what size you're gonna want. For myself, I go exactly off the size chart. I measure a small in my waist. I cut the small in the waistband, and then I measure a large in the booty, but I'm on the small end. Okay, my measurement is 41 on my full hip, and the medium goes to a 40, and the large starts at 41. So I'm right at the edge of the large, too big for a medium. So what I do is I usually draw my line or cut my line right in between the medium and the large. Because the large is drafted for 41 to 43, I'm pretty far away from 43, okay? But I'm over 40. So what I do is cut in between. A lot of us forget that that's an option. If you are on the low end of your size and you're worried that that size is going to be too big, cut right in between. That's what I do for mine. Your first sew up out of it will probably fit better than any store-bought jeans already, okay? We forget that when we're fitting and perfecting patterns that we're being really picky, okay? Which is good. That's why we sew. We want as close to perfection as we can, right? But don't get overwhelmed by the fit of pants, because remember, right out of the bat, they're probably going to fit way better than store-bought ones. I know that mine always do. Okay, I can never get pants that are long enough, that are curvy enough for me out of the store. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed on the fit, go by the size chart, sew it up in clearance fabric that you have, and remember how much better they fit than store-bought already, okay? Even if they're not perfect, okay? The perfection will come with knowing your body. Also, one reason that I drafted these for a stretch denim instead of a true denim is because we fluctuate. It's just natural. Even during testing, my waist fluctuated a full inch. My hip fluctuated a full inch. Just during testing, that's 2 weeks. And several testers fluctuated between sizes. So that stretch denim gives you just a little bit more fluctuation room on fitting into the jeans that you're going to take a long time sewing up all throughout the month, okay? Because it's natural for us to fluctuate. So don't worry if they're not absolutely perfect for your body right when you try them on. You could try them on next week and they might fit a little better. So I hope that little bit of stretch helps you wear them more and be a little bit easier to fit, okay? All right, y'all, now that we have our measurements, let's talk about how to grade for those. Your natural waist measurement is what you're gonna wanna cut out of your waistband. Whatever you hit there, that's what you wanna cut out. Remember, you do have the option of cutting between sizes if you're really between. Here is the area this is the back, but on the back and the front, this is the length that you're gonna want to match to your waistband. So I did a small waistband. I needed to make sure my back pieces finished the same as right here, okay? I have a large hip, so I went from the small to the large. You're going to want to use a French curve. If you don't have one, it does make it a little bit more difficult I highly recommend grabbing one. This is a cheapo one from Amazon, and it has served me well over the years, so no need to spend a ton of money. So I go from a small to a large, and so I'm going to place it at the small and then swing it out, and I can move this until I think it looks like a beautiful curve. Okay, so that's about where I would keep it. So I would just trace from here to here. Okay, I do have the hip marked, and of course the hip, if you go straight across, is on this side as well. So I also grade from the small out to the large right here, and then I continue going to the large through the booty curve. Personally, I have a large thigh, so I continue down the large the rest of the way. Okay. If you have a smaller thigh, you're still going to want to give yourself the booty curve, and then from here, then you're going to want to grade to the smaller thigh. Okay, or bigger. If you have a small booty and a bigger thigh, you're going to kind of make it straighter like that. Okay, the front is a lot easier, so we won't go over the front. Another challenging thing can be the dart. Okay, so what you really want to do is, I'm a small waist. I'm going to take this size small dart and use that one. Okay. I do need the length here. As you can see, as the sizes go up, they get a little longer. That gives you more fabric to go around the booty curve. So I do suggest taking your waist and moving it up to whatever your full hip is, or down, depending on if you're grading up or down from the waist to the hip. Now that's something, it's not a very big difference. That's something you can experiment with. Do you need the extra length? Do you not need the extra length? Okay. One more thing to talk about the dart is if you are adding or taking away length. Let me click off some of these sizes here. If we're not talking about grading between sizes on waist to hip or anything, but you need to add length or take away length, don't forget about the darts. Okay, so here is the hip, here is the waist with the waistband. I add an inch from here. This is what I need. So I'm also going to lengthen my dart. I lengthen it by 1/2 inch. So you can see it ends here. I would add 1/2 inch, and then starting at the exact same points and just lengthening it that 1/2 inch. Same with shortening. If you shorten a full inch, you're going to want to shorten your dart just a little bit as well. You just want to think of the proportions. You know, if I'm doing an inch from here to here, this is about halfway from waist to hip. You want to take that dart and change it as well. If you're grading multiple sizes like me and you think, what in the world pockets do I need? I personally think that your full hip goes best. So I go from a small to a large. I actually first tried the medium pockets, and I thought they looked kind of small on my size large full hip, so I went with a large. I thought that looked better personally. You can test it out and see what you think. But if you're trying it out for the first time, I would say use the pocket placement and pocket size of whatever your full hip is. I hope this helps. I know it can be tricky, grading from sizes, adding length, taking it away. But once you get it, you'll have a pair of jeans that fits like a glove, and it will be so glorious. I can't wait to see your Janet jeans. If you have any fitting questions, you can always ask in the Facebook sewing group. We have a ton of admin and moderators and other friendly sewists that are there to help out. We can't wait to see your finished jeans.
Yeah. Bye.